Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor and sometimes gouache. And this week we are doing a gouache Corgi tutorial. We are going to be doing this project in 6 steps. So our very first step, we will be putting in the dark values on our face and our body and then blending those out. So we're going to kind of do it section by section. Our second step, we will paint the ears. Our third step, we will paint the face. Our fourth step, we will paint the white fur. Our fifth step, we will paint the grass and the ground. And our very last step is just kind of finishing any details that we need to finish.
Nice.
We are using 2 paintbrushes. We are using around 6 and around 2. These are our go-to brushes. We use them almost every single project. We are using a special paper from Legion, which we do not sell on our website. I don't think they make this in pad form. So.
Awkward.
Great paper. Keep it.
Don't waste it.
Don't use it?
Don't put paint on it. Just look at it.
Okay, and we are using 5 colors for our gouache, and I'm not gonna swatch them. I'm just gonna put the tubes up, if that's okay. Our first color is permanent white. Our second color is turquoise blue. Our third color is ivory black. Our fourth color is permanent yellow deep. And our very last color is carmine.
Those are very realistic swatches.
Yes, they are. What if I for real illustrated those? That would be so cool.
That'd be amazing.
If you guys are not familiar with gouache, we have an entire video that talks about how gouache is similar to watercolor or acrylic, how it differs, and just gives you some background information on how to use it. So you can check that out. That's on our YouTube channel. And I designed this project to go inside the dog gouache box. And how I designed these different projects is I wanted to utilize gouache in varying ways across all of the projects. So gouache is really interesting because it can be used as a watercolor or as an acrylic or kind of both depending on how you layer it, which the versatility is amazing. But in this project, I'm going to use it as more of a watercolor and focus on really utilizing my water as the paint color to add lighter values, than as an acrylic where I'm adding white to add lighter values. That will be done in other projects. Okay?
Okay.
All right, let's do our outline and then we'll do our oath and then we'll get started. Oh, and Keenan is here.
Oh, hey.
Keenan, thank you for walking in just now.
Thank you. So sorry to interrupt.
And you have an outline with this project. So we're going to tape our outline to our paper. I love this dog so much. Sorry, I just got happy looking at that outline. Look at how happy he is.
I just picture him running. He's
Yeah.
got those little legs.
Corgis are so cute. Can't you just picture? I love corgis.
I can picture it better when you do that motion.
Little.
Yeah, that's it.
I just love dogs that have stubby legs.
Yes.
All right, sorry. A little fangirling here over dogs right now. Okay, you're gonna take your graphite paper and do dark shiny side down. And then whatever line you make, it will transfer onto your paper. Now I always like to do one line and then lift it up and see where we are. Okay, that might be a little bit dark. Now, I try and do mine when I'm by myself as light as humanly possible. And usually with gouache, it doesn't actually matter a ton because gouache is opaque, which means you can cover lines and paint on top of each other with gouache. However, because I'm utilizing gouache as more of a watercolor today and not going to be doing a ton of layering, then I'm still gonna try and keep my pencil lines light. Now also, I'm trying to do this on camera, which means I will actually be drawing these a little bit darker than I would at home, just so you guys could see. But if you're at home, try and make it as light as possible. And to make it lighter, you just do a lighter pressure when you are tracing your lines. And to make it darker, you just press down harder. And if you're having a hard time making the line light, even with a light pressure, then try and grab a felt tip marker or something, because that has just a soft point naturally. So it'll transfer lighter. And there's lots of little lines on this outline, lots of sections. And remember, I always like to think of outlines as guidelines for you guys. This is general guidelines here. So if there's a section that you accidentally forgot to trace, no big deal. You can eyeball it. Or like if there's an area that, like if we're transitioning values or anything like that, basically what I'm saying is you don't have to like color block. I want you to blend. I don't want it to be like just sections, you know. And then we got some tiny details in here. Now this painting is also really loose too. It's a little bit more illustrative, which I love personally.
I also enjoy that very much.
Just think it's cute. Like, can't you just see this little doggy in like a children's book illustration?
Yes, and his name is George.
Yes. Yes. I started reading a book to my girls last night called The Ichabod.
The Ichabod?
Yeah. And I do this like funny accent that Ella loves, and it just reminded me of that because I was thinking of like King Henry and then King George, and that's where I made that connection. But anyways, I had her laughing pretty darn good.
That sounds like a really great experience. I wish I could do the accent.
It's funny because Ella, my oldest, loves it. Luna hates it.
She's like, no, use your real voice.
She's like, stop doing that voice, Mom. She's like, talk normal, please. And Ella's like, no, you got to talk in the voice. So I read the book switching off to appease both of them.
So you got one page that's accented and one page that's normal.
If that's not parenthood right there.
Serious. You're not wrong at all. I try different voices all the time, and both my girls are like, no, not that one.
They're like, come up with another one. Okay, I think I got it all traced. All right, let's do our oath, and then we'll get to painting. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
I promise to have fun. I missed the bell.
Wow.
I was watching your thumb. It's not an easy thing.
That was way too much of an aggressive thumb for how tiny that ding was.
Listen, let's not review that.
Listen, this is the last time you will ever hear of Keenan.
Keenan who?
All right, let's get started. So we're going to move on to step one. Now, just a warning, step one is going to take a little bit longer than any of the other steps because this is where we're putting in the most color and the value. I'm going to start with the round two, actually, because I'm going to go in around the head. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mix kind of like an orange color. So I'm going to grab my carmine, and I'm going to grab my yellow and mix it. Now, if you want to add a little bit of water in there to make it go smoother, you can. And then what I like to do is I'm also going to mix kind of a slightly darker orange, which is brown. Dark orange is brown, just so you guys know. Actually, there's this really interesting video about, did I already mention this? About how our brains are so fascinating that unless somebody says to you that brown is dark orange, you do not make that connection. They're totally different things. But if you actually look on the colors of orange, the different values, it very, very clearly goes into brown. But our brains, because we don't make that connection, they're totally separate. Isn't that crazy?
It's super crazy.
It's wild. Okay.
I'd like to see a chart like that because that sounds very satisfying to look at.
Yeah. And especially because orange is your favorite color.
Yeah, sunset orange specifically.
Yep. Okay.
But also brown because chocolate.
Yep. I was just thinking of a line from Baby Mama.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh, really?
I don't think so.
this child's running and she like stops her. She grabs her hand. She goes, "Is this chocolate or poop? Is this chocolate or poop?"
Oh no.
And then she licks it and she goes, "It's chocolate." And then somebody watches was like, "What if it was poop?" That is also parenthood.
It's super accurate.
All right, you guys. Keenan, we're trying to paint here, please.
I'm so sorry. I just keep coming up with great parenthood stories.
All right, I got my colors mixed and let's get started. I'm gonna grab some of this orange, and where there are darker values on this little Corgi, that's where I'm gonna put my color in first, and then I'm gonna use water to blend it out. So I'm looking at areas where it's kind of layered and we wanna push things back. So for example, we can see here there's a darker value, here on like the sides of the face there's a darker value, on the shoulder, kind of like in the body. And we do that to kind of like communicate the different planes.
Doggy paddle is what you were going for.
All right, so we got this orange brown color, and I'm going to start just right here at the jaw. Okay, put in that, and for now I'm just going to leave it, and then I'm going to paint right here, and I'm just following the outline, uneven line. Okay, and now I'm going to rinse my brush and using just water blend out that color. And try to leave a really, really, really thin white line between this next chunk of dark value so then it stays dark. Ooh, that's a good color. Okay, and then I'm going to blend out the bottom part. Okay. And we're just going to kind of repeat that across our dog. So now I'm kind of doing the shoulder area. Leave a little thin white line in between so they don't blend together. Then blend out. And if at this point you want to switch to your round 6 as we get more into the body, you can, especially when we're like blending out because it's a larger area.
Sarah, can you do a really obscure box that's just like cargo shorts?
Cargo shorts?
Yeah, just a pair of cargo shorts.
Yes.
Thank you.
Why?
This brown-orange conversation got me thinking about khaki cargo shorts and guys named Todd.
Okay.
So I thought...
And we just want to celebrate that.
So we want to celebrate the cargo short. There has to be a National Cargo Shorts Day.
I'm sure there is.
You know what? I'm going to look it up.
Okay. Now, as you're blending out these darker values, and let's say that the color you get as you're blending out is maybe not the color that you're looking for. Maybe you want it to be more orange or more yellow or more brown. You can always pick up a little bit of color on your brush as you're blending out to introduce that color. You don't have to just like commit to whatever color is blended out if you're feeling like that's not the right color. Okay. All right, and we got to do the other side. And especially in this painting, I'm really letting my brush strokes kind of stand out a little bit. It's okay if it's not perfectly blended in. I feel like this painting benefits a little bit from that texture of layering. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of do a light wash on our face. So I'm going to grab some orange and mix water on my palette and then kind of put in the wash. Sorry, I didn't finish that sentence. And you want to make sure that this is a light value because you still want to see your pencil lines underneath because the pencils are going to inform us of where we put the dark values. And the reason why I'm doing it this way as opposed to what we were doing earlier is because these areas that are a darker value, especially around the eyes, are so tiny that it would be easier just to paint them on after instead of like layering and then trying to blend them out to paint the whole, to like move that color around the whole space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it makes it a little more convenient because of the gouache features.
Yes, absolutely. And this is more like traditional watercolor of how you would approach a watercolor painting. Is watercolors, you want to start with your lightest values first and build on top. Where acrylic usually, or oil, you start with your darkest value layers first and then add lighter values on top of it. That's the difference between, mostly. But I will say that like a lot of my watercolor painting style, and maybe you guys have noticed this from painting with me, is I didn't formally train in watercolor, so a lot of the ways that I approach painting is I like to put in my darker values and then just blend them out to my light values, which is not totally common or traditional for watercolor painting. But that's okay. Everybody approaches projects different ways, and you can do whatever you want. Okay, we're gonna let that dry for a second before we go in and do the darker values on top for the face. So I'm gonna kind of go into step 2 for a little bit, and then we'll come back to step 1. We're gonna paint the ears. So let's mix like a pinkish color. So I'm gonna grab this red and a tiny bit of the orange just to warm it up a bit. And I'm gonna do a tiny bit of black. But be careful, that black is strong. So if you do too much, it will just turn your whole mixture black. And I wanna get kind of like an earthy red pink. Okay, now that I have that color, I'm gonna start with the bottom of my ears, kind of where they're coming out, and then using water and blending. And if you're like, how far up do I go? You go pretty far up. And even if you want to go all the way, you can, because we will be painting like the orange fur around the ear as well, so we can just paint over it. Okay. And actually, might as well, I wasn't planning on doing this, but this seems like a smart thing to do. I'm going to take my red and actually just paint my tongue while we have it.
Oh, nice.
We'll put in the darker value layer, but might as well. Okay, now we're going to put in the hair around our ears. I'm taking that same orange, and I'm kind of just putting in this darker value. Around, add water, kind of blend it out.
It's a good looking ear.
Those little ears stick straight up, they're so cute. Have you seen a picture of a Corgi puppy?
No.
I'm gonna need you to take your cellular device and go ahead and look that up right now.
I'll do it right now.
And you guys at home too, I'm not kidding, stop painting with me this moment. Open a new tab and take a look at a Corgi puppy. Because they are some of the cutest things you'll ever see.
Oh my gosh.
Are they so cute?
They're so little.
They're just like fluff balls.
This one doesn't even look like it has legs.
Oh.
Do you know there are teacup corgi?
No.
They're even smaller.
No.
There are also fat corgi puppies and fluffy ones. Wow, these are cute.
Okay, we put in our ears, and now we're going to move on to, we're going to go back into step 1 and finish off the values on our face. So I'm going to grab the orange. It should be a darker value than the underpainting that we just did on the face. And I'm just going to follow my outlines. that I have in here. So there's a darker value underneath the eye, at the top. And what we're trying to do here is just to start giving our face a little bit of form. So I put those in, and then I'm going to rinse my brush and then kind of just not fully blend it out, but blend around to soften it so it doesn't feel blocky. And it's cool because like we can see already like that feels pretty flat because it's all one value. And then the other half of the face, I'm starting to have an understanding of the form.
Yeah, that's cool. Huh.
Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side now. The reason why we're putting these values where we are is because we're trying to push them back in space. So like the side of the nose, we're trying to say like, yes, the nose is highlighted, it comes out, that has to be a lighter value. The sides of the nose where it kind of is going away from us, that's a darker value. We have the, sockets. The sockets of our eyes here. The sides of our head, the side of, I'm saying our as this, it's like we are the dog, but the side of the dog head too, that is going back in space and it's on the side, so we got to communicate that by making that a darker value. We have like a neck jaw line going on too, so that's here.
Well, I mean, I don't
either.
currently.
I don't want to. A strong jawline is not what I have.
So a pro tip is become the dog.
And again, we're not getting too fussy with this. We're really just kind of putting in these darker values, kind of blending the edges a little bit so it doesn't feel too, separated. We want to just have them transition into each other a little bit if you can. And then we're leaving it alone. We're letting it be a little bit messy and loose. This is not supposed to be a perfectly smooth painting. Again, I said it's a little bit illustrative style. We want to see the layers of the gouache, which we're kind of utilizing as watercolor. We want to play with all of those things. And this is also one of those paintings that when you're this close to it and how we're painting this, your brain is telling you there is no way this looks like a dog. But it does. Take a step back. Put it up across the room when you're done, walk away from it, and then come back to it. Your brain doesn't allow you to see what you're doing when you're this close to it. And I feel like that's true in so many things. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
If you're looking at a situation or a problem way too close and you're like focusing on all of these little things, it's kind of really difficult to get a view of what's going on. So it's good to take a step back. Okay, he's looking cute.
So cute.
He's a cute little guy. All right, I just am noticing I need to put a little darker value in here. Push that back a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna move on to step 3. We are going to do the face, okay? Now this is going to be tricky because these are very tiny areas. Little bitty. If you have smaller than a round 2, you can absolutely use a smaller than that. I'm going to continue to use my round 2, but I will be like utilizing my vertical hold and really using pretty much the point to paint these areas because they're very tiny. Now, before I freak you out, actually I just freaked you out. It's too late for that. But the good thing is we are using gouache. So even if your brushstroke goes astray and the eyes get too big or the nose gets like way too big because you accidentally painted it bigger, you can utilize your white gouache and layer it after it dries and cover that black up. So it's not the end of the world, okay? Just want to point that out. All right, we're gonna do our eyes first. And I'm pretty much just using black because these eyes are so tiny that I'm not trying to do huge colors of the, what is that called? The iris. If you want to do a really dark brown instead of black, you can. Okay. And I have some glare spots. I will go back in and soften some of those up. For now, I'm leaving them. And if you accidentally paint your glare spots in, you can go back in with your white gouache. Just paint on top.
Ooh, that's nice.
Okay, we got the nose here. Now the front part of this nose, I'm actually just gonna paint all of this black. And then we'll go back in with our white and just kind of highlight, do a little highlight of where there would be the lip of the nostril.
Does the nose have a wet spot?
Yes, noses usually have wet spots and glares. I think because this is so small, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I do have one. I have one right on the tip, and then I have little spots for the nostril. And then I'm doing the mouth. The smile.
Look at him just cheesing. He's working hard for that treat.
Yeah, he is. He's gonna get it. I would give it to him.
Totally.
And then I always laugh at these. There's little shadows underneath the nose on all dogs, and I always draw it in, and it always looks like a mustache to me before I paint it. And sometimes even after I paint it, and it just makes me laugh. Just you can take some of that black paint that you put in for the nose and just bring it down with the damp brush. Or if you want to mix some black with some water in your tray, you can.
Oh, that looks great.
And then I'm also going to take a little bit of gray and in between the eyes on that white part. And that's because we want to push that forehead back in space.
And time.
Yeah. And at the top of the head, doing the same thing. Pushing the head away, pushing the bridge away, and the nose is what's coming out. And the reason why underneath it's shadowed is one, because the nose itself is casting a shadow. Two, underneath the nose, it starts to go back in. So we got to communicate that. It's not like the nose comes out and then it's just a wall. It comes to a point and then it starts to recede. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was picturing a dog for a second to make sure that what I just said was right.
There's one right there on your table.
Okay, and then the top part of this nose, I'm actually going to mix a little bit of this blue with my black. We want it to be a highlight on this black. So we're going to utilize blue to communicate that instead of gray.
I like that.
Now if it gets too blue for you, you can always let it dry and do kind of a gray wash over it. Okay, we're doing good, you guys. Next step, hold on, okay. Next step, I'm gonna go in and I'm going to lighten up some of these highlights in the eyes, and by what I mean by that is just kind of take some of this black paint that I have with the damp brush and go over some of the highlights so they're more like a light gray now instead of just paper white.
That looks good.
And it's just a little swoosh. It's not a lot of, if you work it too much back and forth, you'll lose it completely. And then what we got to do is we got to paint in the eyelids. So I'm going to think of like eyeliner a little bit, and using my black, I'm just going to go underneath, leave a little white space, paint the eyelid underneath, and then the one on top. Do the same thing on the other side. Just kind of putting the eyelid. And then I need to get the corners of these mouth up a little bit more, make him a little bit happier. There we go. Okay, we're doing good. I'm gonna put in the shadow on my tongue. So wherever the tongue is coming out of the mouth, right where it meets the mouth on that top part, there is gonna be a darker value red because it's coming out of something. And so the roof of the mouth is casting a shadow on that tongue, and it's communicating that that's like a hole that goes back in, you know? So I'm gonna take my red and my black, mix a darker red. And when you mix red and black together, sometimes it has like a brown tint, sometimes it has like a purple tint. I use both, whichever one. You're just gonna kind of put that in and then use water and blend that out so it transitions. And then kind of like on the ridge, on the edge here, on the left-hand side, kind of putting in that darker value. Man, don't you love how sometimes just putting in a little bit of a darker value is like all you need to make it feel?
I mean, you did a similar thing to the eye.
Yeah.
And it changed the face. At least for me it did.
I'm just doing another little dark value on the ear while I had that red up. Yours might not need this, but I noticed that mine was feeling a little bit flat, so I'm just adding that little extra darker value. There we go, that feels better. Okay, and then I'm going to take my white and just using a little bit of white, I'm going to just do a little bit of a glare line here, and then on the right hand side, just to hint at nostrils. Now these are not the insides of the nostrils, this is the lip of the nostril that the light is hitting, okay? And then do a little bit of a glare right on the tip of that nose. Doesn't he look good?
He looks great. Looks like he's in his Sunday best. You know, he's just getting ready for taking an early Sunday afternoon nap.
He's so cute. Okay, now we're going to, I'm sorry, I got to make his left eye just a little bit bigger. I was just looking at that. Okay, so I feel like my left eye just looks smaller, which, by the way, I want to call out, just because the eyes are not the same exact size, does that mean that you're doing your proportions wrong? If you're doing portraits of a specific animal or person, people have different sized eyes all of the time. They have different sized ears. Like, our faces are not perfectly symmetrical. And also, some of our eyes have a tendency to close more than the other. I noticed that. I think my left eye, I can't remember. When I'm talking, it tends to, like... twitch? It doesn't...
look crazy. Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
I feel like you're making people uncomfortable. No, but just, it tends to close a little bit easier than my right hand, or my right eye. I don't know. It's just who we are. So, anyways, but for me, this is just kind of, I just want him to have big eyes. So I'm just going to add a little bit of black. There we go. That feels better. It was just a little bit more black on the top of that left eye.
Nice.
Okay. Now, we are going to move on to step 4. We're going to do the white fur. I'm going to continue using my round 2. Wow, I just had a look on the brush for what size this was, even though I use the same exact size every time. Okay, I mix some water in with my black on my palette, so I have a gray. And similar to what we did with the fur, we're gonna do the same thing except just on the white areas. So kind of where different parts of the body are meeting and different layers, we're gonna put in this gray. And then use your water, rinse your brush, blend it out. I absolutely adore painting white animals and dogs. Because it goes so quick because you only are putting in the shadows. Oh. The like fur part and the highlights are the white of the paper. So you're basically just like painting around it for the form to emerge, and it's just like wham bam, thank you ma'am, done, you know?
Yes.
We have some up here, kind of underneath the jaw, where this fur is meeting. Use your water and blend. Okay. And then this area right here is actually where it's going to be the darkest of the values on our fur. On the white fur part. So I'm going to paint that. We still want the top part to be the darkest value, but most of this is going to stay kind of gray, where like in other areas I really left the white of the paper. This one I want it to, the whole thing to feel pretty like a darker value, to show this is underneath the body. This is kind of more facing us. This is going away from us. There's a little tuft of white hair here. And then on the top of the foot, we got some shadow. Now I didn't get too detailed a little bit with this foot. I'm just kind of saying, yeah, there's a paw there and a leg. That's really all you need to know. Move on, you know? And we're gonna be putting grass in here too, so it's not a huge deal. We'll be covering a lot of this up. Okay. And then if you want to put in little fur textures, I have some outlined here. And when I do fur textures, it's just little dashes. And the reason I outlined some of them, but I really leave it up to you guys exactly how much you want to put in there. Just don't go too crazy. You don't want to lose some of the form or dimension that you've created by going a little bit crazy with the details. That can flatten your image. Okay, now before we move on to the grass, this is where if there's like any areas on your dog, the white fur part or the orange fur part that you want to kind of like darken up or tighten up or anything, you can. I forgot to put in this dark value here. So I'm putting that in now, the Joy of Gouache. I can just layer it right on top and blend out.
That is cool. That is such a cool, gosh, gouache is so cool.
I love it. And I love gouache. I love that it has like a chalky, matte finish to it. It feels smooth and it looks smooth. It's not like a glossy sheen or plasticky sheen kind of thing, which personally I really love the look of. However, I will say that that's like a personal preference. And some people might not like gouache for that very same reason. And that's totally okay. That's totally okay. I am not a believer in, you know, you have to use this one medium this one time because it's so, like, everybody, it's all preference, you know what I mean? And my opinion and your opinion, they're just as valid as, they're both valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Like wallpaper.
What's like wallpaper?
I have no idea.
Like wallpaper.
It's like a key phrase to remember the accent.
Okay. I did a little red wash over my tongue because I wanted it to feel a little bit of a brighter red. Yours might not need that. All right, now let's do the grass. So I'm going to mix green by grabbing some yellow and mixing that with my turquoise blue. And so I got a good green here, and then if I want to make it a little bit more brown, I can mix in some brown that I already have mixed, like so. You can do more of a blue-green, just add more blue.
I like that brown green.
Yeah, isn't that a good green?
Yeah, it is.
All right, using my green and my round 2, I'm going to just start putting in grass here and there. I kind of have some outlines. You guys can do more or less. You can totally overlap where we painted. Again, the beauty of gouache. Okay. And then now I'm going to switch to my round 6. I'm going to pick up some color a little bit. And then I'm just going to kind of blend out. And this way, I'm actually using like the side of my brush. See, I'm kind of doing more of a horizontal hold to get a thicker brush stroke. I'm just kind of doing horizontal lines.
That dry texture popped in there. That's nice.
Yeah. And if you're like grabbing color from your grass and blending and it's just not as much color as you would like, then pick up some color as you're blending. And I also, don't forget to go around the back of the dog as well. The ground continues behind animals, unless they're sitting on a hill and you're looking at them straight on or underneath, then there would only be sky. But besides that, you would still continue to see land.
I know I said his name was George.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I want to call him Doug.
He does look like a Doug.
My nephew's just got some dogs recently. I think they're part a couple dogs, but they're going to end up being somewhere around 130 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
One of them named their dog Steve.
That's really great.
I know. So it starts to chew on something it's not supposed to, and Steve!
Steve!
Stop it, Steve.
Okay. And this is just a rough putting ground in. It's not, I might be getting too much in the weeds here by kind of messing with it.
Oh, I see what you did there.
I'm messing with it too much. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Now we're moving on to our very last step, which is details. This is kind of one of those things where take a step away from your painting, or if there's something that you were noticing while we were painting the grass and you want to go back in and adjust it, now is that time. I think I might just darken since I changed the shape of my eye on my left one, I'm going to go back in and kind of redo the top part of that eyelid a little bit. Yep. Okay. And then I think you could do with a little bit of a darker value along here. Too much water. goes. Okay. I think we are done. This is our little Corgi. You said Doug?
Doug.
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 This is Doug.
He's going to be at your barbecue later.
He will play with the kids and
Yes.
pick up any scraps.
He'll just stare at you till you give them to him.
So in my lifetime, I used to do a lot of pet portraits, like commissions on Etsy and watercolor. And I had this series where I didn't do it for very long, but it was really funny, where I would share a painting of a pet I did, and I would make up this entire story about them and their
Awesome.
personality and what they were like. And it was really fun.
That sounds amazing. Like little short stories about the dogs.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I would describe their personalities, even though I had no idea who this dog was.
His name is Steve.
This is Steve. He likes to play catch. Do not touch socks around him, though. I like Okay, anyways. Thank you guys so much for painting with me. I can't wait to see how your Corgi turns out. I can't wait to see what you name him. I think that's half the fun of painting animals anyway, is just seeing their personalities come out. If you're on Facebook, you can join our watercolor group. It's for the sole purpose for you guys to share what it is you're making. That's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. And we're on Instagram, so you can tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. And if you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. Now, this is not a kit. This is just part of a box. However, we do sell the full tubes of the gouache paint. So if you don't have the box, you can just buy the gouache and still paint with us. Or you can use whatever you have. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you later. Bye.